The views and opinions expressed in this podcast are solely those of the podcast author or individuals participating in the podcast and do not represent those of iHeartRadio, Tenderfoot TV, or their employees. This podcast also contains subject matter which may not be suitable for everyone. Listener discretion is advised.
Previously on Wisecrack. Ed, Hedges somehow became the centre of a true crime podcast, which frankly was not on my 5-year plan. Jodi came to my village. I tried to act cool. She made my family. Oh no, she didn't make my family. That was my grandparents. She met my family. I panicked and made everyone tea that no one asked for. Then I stood in the corner like a lamp. And my parents confirmed everything I'd said on stage. So that was validating and also deeply, deeply awkward. If I didn't need therapy before, I think we're heading there now. Anyway, Jodi's still digging. Next stop, meeting Brett's dad. I tried to warn her about him, using only my eyes and a secret blinking language that I didn't teach her about before we went. She didn't pick up on it. It's her podcast, I guess. Onwards and upwards.
Hey, how are you?
Hey, how are you?
I'm in the UK. Did you have a chance to read the report?
One of the first documents I got my hands on was the domestic homicide report. There isn't an official equivalent in the US, and it's only created in the UK when there is a long history of violence or abuse. When society demands to know, how did this happen? In Brett Rogers' report, it examines his entire life and was conducted by investigating all the government agencies that were supposed to support and assess him. Everything from the education system to the parole board.
What did you think?
Yes, I read it.
I sent this report over to my friend Erin, a 20-year veteran of social work in Georgia. She focuses on at-risk young adults with mental health issues, diagnosed or not. Though our systems are different from the UK, I was hoping she could see something I couldn't, especially when it came to Brett's biggest advocate, his father, Pete Rogers.
So that's again a little bit of why I'm nervous for you, of being around his dad. I'm not sure, clearly none of that, I'm not sure that was in the report about how dad or past behaviors. I've just worked in the field for so long that yes, some of it is biological and the brain does different things. And if he hasn't been diagnosed, that's one thing. But there is also a learned behavior that comes along with this where most people get it from where they live and what they see the most.
What do you think this is? So you're saying this isn't safe?
I personally would not go there. Or please bring someone with you. Oh gosh, now I'm nervous. Can you please be careful?
The thing was, I was already on my way. I'm Jodi Tovey, and this is Wisecrack. Episode 5, Brett, You Never Knew Me. On the drive to Pete's house, I'm silent. Ed keeps looking over. He senses I'm nervous and responds with wisecracks and one-liners, but I want to stay focused on the task at hand. The truth is, the thought of meeting the father of a convicted murderer has me on edge. Out of respect for the subject matter, I ask Ed if he can wait in the car while I interview Pete. Though it confuses him, he agrees. And I take a deep breath and walk up the front steps and knock on the door.
Pete? Hi, I'm Jodi. Nice to meet you. How's it going?
Yeah, well, no, I'm fine.
Good.
There's not room in my place, but it's...
That is fine. I
Pete's one bedroom is the bottom floor of a converted townhouse in the next village over. It looks a lot like the Hedges home, only split in half for those who don't need room for a full family.
Go straight ahead.
Oh, all right. Lovely. Okay, thank you so much.
The apartment is simple and unassuming, pared down to the needs of a retired electrician. He greets me in shorts and a loud printed shirt, like an old surfer. I can tell he's nervous too, but he calmly smiles as he shows me his place, which includes his music collection and his new hobby, an acoustic guitar.
Uh-oh, we have a musician in the house. What were we listening to? That was...
They need my money down. That's Bruce Springsteen.
There's so much I want to ask Pete about that night, about what he thinks about his son, about how he's continued to move on. But once we sit down, I just want to work my way into a conversation by starting simple. So I ask about his other son, Aaron.
He's a bit like me, actually. He's like very, very soft. He's very clever, actually. I say soft. He's sort of like... he's a nice kid. Everyone says that, Everyone says that about Aaron,
What about Brett? Was he an easy kid as well, or a difficult kid?
He was always naughty, Brett. He was always naughty, yeah. That was like, that was his character, wasn't it? He was full of life. And he's like, he was always out there playing. He would even play, the older kids would even follow him. He was good at football. He was good at sports. He was very popular. I would say he was probably one of the most popular in the school.
When did that friend group start to shrink?
Believe when he stopped football, which is maybe 13, something like that. Yeah, it was about then, I think,
Pete continued to walk me through Brett's childhood, which includes his divorce from Jillian when Brett was a teenager. He tells me about Brett's early run-ins with the law, eventually leading to one of the worst days of Pete's life, and perhaps the incident that sealed Brett's fate in the years that followed.
And he did get a job. He got a job as a milkman, which was great. He was earning good money. He was earning his own money. That lasted about a month until we had a problem with me, where he went out to... He was on his bike. He was always leaving his wallet in his back pocket, like the youngsters do, Lost his wallet, come home, and I was sitting there, actually, and he went out there to make himself something to eat, and he started calling me names again, one of them, they just flip, you see. I know there's something funny going on, but I didn't know about it then, enough about it then. And so, I said, look, go and take a walk around the block, come back and calm down. So he decided to attack me. So I slipped and hit my eye on the corner.
Pete points to an area where furniture used to be. It's worth noting that when Pete, quote, slipped, he hit the furniture so hard he broke open his eye socket.
Anyway, cut a long story short, the police come round, they said to me, don't worry, it's a family thing. We won't get, much time and that, but he's going to get prosecuted. So we want your statement. So, okay, I gave him my statement, and they tried to give him 7 years. A family thing, so they tricked me,
Tricked is a heartbreaking choice of words. I can tell Pete is struggling with memories of Brett. He's still grieving, still asking what if things could have been different. As much as his reasoning is strained, I also understand it.
But they gave him 5 years in the end, and he came out into about 2.5, something like that. I thought he needed to be prosecuted. I thought he needed to, but to give him 5 years was like ridiculous, really, but that's how the law works, Yeah, they tricked me, I think. They want to have a little tick on their box, the police, I'm not saying they're all like that. I'm just saying that that's the way it worked at that point.
Mm-hmm. And so is that what it was like when he was staying here with you? It was just a switch that would flip? From seemingly...
That's the first time it happened, yeah, because I would try to understand him, you see.
I can't imagine being a dad and watching your son change behaviors so dramatically.
It's not nice, no. I didn't understand what was happening. I didn't know he had schizophrenia,
This is the first time I've heard this word aloud to describe Brett, and I'm a little stunned, but cautious. Pete's casual use of the term makes me wonder if he's using the clinical definition of the disease. Schizophrenia is one of the most complex mental illnesses affecting how a person thinks, feels, and behaves. It can cause someone to hear or see things that aren't there, believe things that aren't true, or feel confused about what's real and what's not. It's also one of the hardest to diagnose because no test exists. In men, symptoms tend not to appear until their early 20s, and then once recognized, a constellation of traits must be diagnosed, but that requires a consistent schedule with medical professionals to uncover. Simply put, it takes time to see the pattern. To be clear, Brett was never diagnosed with schizophrenia, but in hindsight, Pete believes he suffered from it. And remember, in prison, Brett was prescribed antipsychotics intended to treat schizophrenia.
And then he became 18 or 16 when you stop having any power over him, you know. Then you're lost because you can't do anything. The doctor won't talk to you, that sort of thing.
Due to British age of consent laws, Pete wasn't allowed to talk to the doctors about his son's mental health after he turned 16. It's a frustrating law, paradoxical because those late teenage years are exactly when symptoms start to show.
After Brett was released from prison, it said the family felt like things were better, and that the fact that these murders had occurred, it seemed out of the blue. And I'm just curious, when he got out of prison, can you describe his behavior? Like,
Yeah.
Did it feel out of the blue? Is that accurate?
No. He come out of prison, he had nowhere to stay. He had to go and see his probation officer. Now, the probation officer was on holiday, bless her, so he couldn't see her. So there's a big thing going on there, like, oh, hold on, where do I see them? Where do I go? There's no way they could give him anywhere to stay, so he's out on the street. He's not allowed to stay with me, even though I wrote him a really good letter saying how I understand better what's going on and I think things would be fine and all the rest of it, you know. So we put him up in one of these...
Like a hotel or motel or something, yeah.
But that was for about a week or so, and I thought, we can't keep doing this. So I said to Jill, like, you know, she said, well, he can't stay here, you know, blah, blah, blah.
Once the parole board had forbidden Brett to live under his father's roof, and Jillian had agreed to take in her son, Pete had some unsolicited advice for his ex-wife, and it was absolutely horrifying to hear him say it.
I did say to her, get all your knives, all the sharp knives, and put them away. Put them somewhere else.
You had warned Jillian to take away those knives. Was that because you knew that he was dangerous or because he had threatened before to, like, use weapons?
Because I knew there was a risk. It's as simple as that. I knew there was something not right. There was something not right, you know. Sat in his room when we put him in a hotel and he said, I want you to go now. So he was getting all jittery, you know. So there's something wrong, isn't there, you know. You just get to know that.
The moment is both bone-chilling and bittersweet. Brett, self-aware, is telling his father to leave the room and get to safety before another psychotic episode takes hold of him.
So you weren't surprised?
No, I wasn't surprised. The whole thing happening, you know. But really and truly, it didn't surprise me.
This confession is staggering. Pete Rogers is telling me, pure and simple, that he knew Brett was capable of something like this. With that weight hanging between us, now's the time to ask. How did he react when he heard his son murdered his former wife?
Well, Aaron phoned me. Aaron phoned me, said people are saying sorry about this and sorry about that, and I didn't know what he was talking about. And then I started getting messages, and I went round there, basically, to see what was going on. I sort of knew something really bad had happened, you know, so And I don't know, they never told me, no, they keep stum, don't they? They just said, like, you know, it's an incident, basically. It's a weird feeling because, like, you're in shock and life goes on and you're in a little bit of shock and you don't really know what to do.
Pete, having now met you, I think you seem like such a well-adjusted, kind person. How were you able to get through this? How have you been able to sit here and stand and hold a house and a job and play guitar?
Well, this comes in as the years go by, doesn't it? I took a Jungian analyst who's a local, and I sat with her for probably once a week, you know, more or less, for about 5 or 6 years. And eventually got to where I want to be. I guess sometimes you're all jumbled up in your head, aren't you? And you just go ahead and do things anyway, you know. But it gives you that space to sort of segregate things a little bit and make the right decisions, basically. And for me, I in the winter, I generally take antidepressants for only a small amount. But recently I've taken a bit more. I've taken them in the summer. And basically I realised that I've needed them for years. Because I've noticed that if depression comes upon you, you don't really know it unless you've been there. And you think this is life. And when you get something that lifts you that little bit, you think, well, this is how it's supposed to be, you know. And so you can manage your life like that if you have them problems, you know?
Yeah.
And that's the way I get through it. And I'd also like to laugh and have a joke, you know.
My head went back to my friend Erin's analysis. Of course, she's never met Pete Rogers. She'd only reviewed the domestic homicide report. But Erin had nothing to worry about. In front of me sat a docile, polite man who openly discussed the worst night of his life with a complete stranger. As we start to wrap up questions about Brett, Pete fairly asks for some clarity on the direction of the podcast.
You've told me that you're here to do a podcast on Edward because he's an up-and-coming comedian, and he's also done a gig that's something involves that it may involve one of my sons, and you seem very interested in my son, and so it does seem a bit over the top for you to come all the way over here to do a podcast on a comedian. It does, to me.
So Ed talks about in his story is how he was home the night that on July 22nd when everything happened. And he said that he came home, he was doing a stand-up set here in town or at Ugly Village Hall. And it was John and Carol, his parents, both in the house. And they woke up to banging. And they think that Brett was trying to get into the house. That's what they believe. Did you ever hear that before?
I've never heard that before, apart from yourself saying that. I don't know. The first I knew about anything was in the morning.
Do you believe that happened? That Brett went and tried to break into their house that night, and this is presumably after he had killed Jill and Dave?
Well, I wouldn't like to say it didn't happen, because it could have happened, couldn't it? Because the boy didn't know what he was doing, really, did he?
If it happened, why do you think he would go to the Hedges house?
He wouldn't, I don't think, no. It wouldn't be the obvious thing that I would think he would do, but who knows, because someone with their mind scrambled like that, you can't blame someone who's got mental health issues like that anyway. You know, they're not to blame, really. It's just circumstances, really. You know, that's all it is. You get nowhere from blame like that anyway, do you?
Recognizing this as a chance for Ed to share his perspective on that night, I shoot him a text asking if he wants to come in.
Hey,
state of that.
Hello, mate.
Hello, Ed. All
How
right,
you
mate?
doing? How you been?
Yeah, I'm good. Yeah, Ed. Yeah.
Was it all right? Was
Yeah.
it? You all right? Everything fine? What happened?
They're
Cool.
good. They're good.
Cool. Lovely. How much is? I don't know what I'm coming into. How much has been explained to you?
It's a 6-week podcast,
6 episode podcast, yeah.
approximately.
Sounds rough, doesn't it?
It's rough, yeah.
Okay, cool. So, all right. Do you know what happened that night? Like, with the house, with Benfield Gardens?
No idea.
Do you want me to tell you what happened from our side, just to fill you in?
Yeah, go on.
So I became a comedian, did gigs all over the place.
That's right.
But then, when I left Stansted, I didn't come back, like, ever. Because
Right.
I had no mates, I didn't really want
No,
to.
it's good. It's good.
So when I came back, do you know Ugly Village Hall?
Yeah.
They had me doing a
I pack up my stuff and watch this reunion, a decade in the making, unfold out of the corner of my eye. It takes me back to the years when your friends' parents were just shapes and faces. You never thought about their lives, their worries, their fears. You were just a kid. But they watched you play together in the yard, ride bikes on the sidewalk, share meals at each other's tables. In this instance, neither family imagined how it would end. One of those kids would become a celebrated comedian. The other would become the subject of every whispered conversation in town.
When you hear I'm a comedian, and when you hear I was talking about this, your first thought is like, why the fuck are you making jokes about that?
Well, there's a line there, isn't there? But I don't know. I've never heard it, you see, so I wouldn't know.
So the way I did it was, if you think of the story that I told in like 100%, 80% of it was about the village, me growing up, going to school, stupid people in the village.
Right.
The last bit was about Brett, because obviously me and Brett had some run-ins, and
Yeah, I didn't know that. Yeah.
and the whole show was about me saying there's this bullshit thing that I think all men do when we hit 30, where you're a father or a husband and you've got to be like flawless. You got to get your money, you got to protect your lot, you can't show any weakness at all. And that pressure fucks people. It just rots people away. Because if you can't show any weakness at all, if a guy can't turn around to his mates and be like, really not happy with my job, really not happy with what's going on, I'm not in a good place, I'm struggling at the moment. And I feel like if we didn't have that, and if Brett was in the situation he was in, he could have turned around and been like, I'm not good right now. If there was no shame around it, he could have got help. Because my stance on it is, it ain't Brett's fault. Yeah.
We had good times, so they're the ones that we keep in our memories.
We're definitely...
I take in everything he just told Pete Rogers, something that felt like a long-winded confession. Or maybe it was just his nerves kicking in, saying what he knew Pete would want to hear, a way to justify his comedy. Either way, it was the first time I'd heard any of it.
Pete, thank you so much. Thanks for your time. Speak to you soon, boss.
And as we say goodbye to Pete, I wondered how much Ed believed what he actually said. And it got me thinking. There was one person in this story that I hadn't interviewed yet, asked the hard questions one-on-one. Ed Hedges himself. How much of the truth did he not know? Had he not faced? Had he taken any liberties with the story that he still had not shared with me? In the car, I check into my flight back to Atlanta. I decided to follow up on a few final loose ends before I left Stansted, and Ed was cool to drive me around the village. But the quaint friendliness of this place was quickly wearing off. I went to Ed's cricket club to interview his old coach, Keith Ayers, the one so proud he'd given Ed an award.
Didn't say anything to you?
No, I don't think you're going to get anything from him.
But we were met with nothing but icy glares and folded arms. At a local bar where all the kids who never left the village gather after work, we might as well have been invisible. I wanted to hear some good memories of Brett from his old friends, but...
What'd he say?
Instant no.
What did he say?
I went, RG membership, you're not members.
A family friend of the Rogers who had agreed to an interview suddenly ghosted. A former classmate of Brett's ran the local flower shop, but inexplicably, her store was now closed for the foreseeable future.
Man.
See what I mean by...
Yeah, totally.
Sorry about that, guys.
That's okay.
It felt like whispers were swirling around this town about our podcast and the questions we were asking about Brett. In an instant, an entire village stopped speaking to us. The cold shoulders put a chill on Ed's mood, too. By sunset, he wouldn't even look at me. My mind rushed back to Sophie's accusations. Through Ed's parents and the police reports, I confirmed most everything that happened. But was there something Ed wasn't telling me? I needed to confront Ed, here and now. So I sat him down and I asked him point blank.
I'll just be very direct. I spoke to Sophie Hagen, who directed your original show.
Yeah.
I mean, she says that you made a lot of this stuff up. What's true and what's not?
She's correct. She's definitely correct. She's definitely correct. And that's something I think I've been pretty upfront with in the past. Even in reviews, you can look, and I've been upfront with it. She's, I'm not going to say she's incorrect with that. So in terms of what's correct and what's not, what's true and what's not, the story is true.
Ed was caught off guard, his calm replaced with the tension that crept into his voice. I could see him tense up, but I let him breathe, let him process, and then I let him tell me his side, uninterrupted.
Anything to do with Brett is true, and anything to do with Brett coming to the house is true. Sophie was really keen on this being a 100% true show, and it was really tough. It was really, really tough for me to do a 100% true show with no embellishments or lies. And I'm a comedian. That's my currency. I need people to laugh. If I'm telling you this really bad story, you gotta laugh. And I did a preview and a friend came up to me and he was like, well, it's a crazy story. And I was like, what do you really think about it? And he said, Ed, it's the Edinburgh Comedy Festival, not the Edinburgh Story Festival. And like a couple of my mates laughed and I was like, shit, I'm a comedian, this needs to be funny. So I made the decision to start changing the punchlines. When I went back into my childhood, I would embellish stories. I was really nervous to tell Sophie that because she was so adamant that everything had to be true, but I couldn't keep dying. And when you're dying on your ass on stage, it's just you. And no one knows that you're being, well, it was all true. It's bollocks. I sucked for 4 or 5 months telling this story, and I decided that when I went back into my childhood, I had to earn the laughs. So I would give them some true, real story, and then I would tell a story that I'd embellished, or that I'd made up an ending, or I'd made up a conversation in my childhood.
But the stuff that happened in the house, with you
Brett.
being there, with Brett, those...
I never mess with that. I never mess with that because I knew that if someone found out I was lying about a murder in my village, I would get crucified. Everything that I said, you kind of had to be able to Google it. You kind of had to be able to search for it. And that's what really upset me. When Sophie searched for the things and she said, look, I don't think this happened in your childhood. I was like, damn right it didn't happen, but that's not the reason they're coming to see the show. I'm glad I made the decision that I made. If you're going to bring the audience down, you have to bring them back up.
I can understand that. And I'm not trying to... Where I struggle, I can confirm those things, but where I struggle is that I cannot confirm that you and your parents were in your house that night.
Right.
I can't prove that there was banging at the door
No.
because it's not in a police report and it's not... that's where I'm... That's my struggle.
Yeah. Brett was found next to my house. And you've seen the house. He was found 10 foot away from my house. That's where they found him. Brett spent a lot of time at my house as a child. My house was the only house in the village that Brett could have gone to because we were the only house that he would come to hang out as a kid.
He was repeating the same facts, clinging to them. But not because he was sticking to a made-up story, because there simply wasn't any new or different truths to offer me. I could see the wheels in his head turning, his frustration heating up with me.
You've spoken to the 3 eyewitnesses, me, my mum, and my dad.
I guess to be very direct, do you have any proof, though, that you were...
But Jodi, what proof do you want? What proof can I give you? It is a first-hand account of something that happened. If you can think of a way that I can prove this in a time that happened before video doorbells and CCTV, if you can think of something I can bring to you, tell me and I will bring it. If you can think of something that will definitively prove it did or it didn't happen, tell me and I will bring it. You've spoken to all of us and we've told you, is there anything else I can offer you? Because if not, this is one of those things where you take my word or you don't.
I'm trying to stay objective, to form an educated opinion, knowing that there may never be hard proof that Brett was at the Hedges door that night. For me to believe that Ed is making it all up, I'd also have to believe that he's convinced his parents to join in on the lie. And after meeting them, I just don't buy it. The truth is, I believe Ed. I do. Ed repeats a behavioral pattern I've seen in my work. Frantic, anxious energy, the Ed you see on stage, followed by long periods of social withdrawal, reflection. Those are the months I couldn't even get a text back from him. It's taken me this entire investigation to understand that this is Ed's healing process.
I have done this show for so long. I've told this story for so long. And the fact that I lived through the night.
I could see the burden of proof weighing on Ed's shoulders, and I wanted to stop the conversation and tell him I trust him. But with what he said next, I wasn't even sure I'd ever hear from him again.
The fact that I lived through the night, I don't mean to sound like blasé, but if I can be 100% honest with you, and this might not be what you want to hear, I really don't give a fuck if you believe me or not.
Next time on Wisecrack.
I'm just going to show you something for context. This is his rap sheet. And that was only 12 years of his life. So in 2012, Jill calls the police again and explicitly says her son is trying to kill her.
Wisecrack is a production of Tenderfoot TV and iHeart Podcasts in association with Starwipe Productions. I'm your host, Jodi Tovey. The show is written by Charles Forbes. Stand-up comedy written and performed by Ed Hedges with additional writing contributions by Charles Forbes. Executive producers for Tenderfoot TV are Donald Albright and Payne Lindsay. Executive producers for Starwipe Productions are Jodi Tovey and Charles Forbes. Lead producer is Alex Vespestad with additional production by Stephen Perez, Joe Grizzle, Jaja Muhammad, Jamie Albright, and Jordan Foxworthy. Lead editor is Stephen Perez with additional editing by Dylan Harrington and Liam Luxon. Coordinating producers are John Street and Tracy Kaplan. Research by Jim Nally and Misty Showalter. Original music by Jay Ragsdale with additional music by Makeup and Vanity Set. Mix by Cooper Skinner. Artwork by Byron McCoy. Special thanks to Oren Rosenbaum and the team at UTA, Nate Ranson, Alexander Kaplan and the Synergy Clubhouse, and the Nord Group. For more podcasts like Wisecrack, search Tenderfoot TV on your favorite podcast app or visit us at tenderfoot.tv. Thanks for listening.